right, here we are with the Bookly Blessed podcast. We are doing a character development interview. I'm here with Stefanie Pettis. So gracious of you to agree to have this interview with me. I really appreciate you so much.
Not a problem.
If you want to just share a little bit about, first of all, I found you on Facebook, and thank you so much for answering my message. I know it was a little odd, a little off the wall.
Well, these days you just really can't trust what's going on.
Absolutely. I very much appreciate that, because as I shared with you in the message, it is very easy to find the wrong people on social media.
Yes, ma'am.
And I very much appreciate you trusting that I was legit.
Not a problem. It was an honor. It's an honor. I'm totally interested now knowing that you write, and that I'd love to read some of your books.
Awesome.
So
Excellent.
I have to get with you on those.
Okay. Excellent. Yeah. And so when I reached out to you, you had posted that you had spent 21 years, correct?
Come June.
Yeah.
Come June be 21 years, and unfortunately right now I'm in the air on whether I can go back to work, because DOT, which is the Department of Transportation, in commercial vehicles, requires you to pass a physical exam.
Right.
And unfortunately, diabetes, and they have messed with my eyes, and my blood sugar's just off the charts right now. So if I don't get them back in order, I'm done. So
I get it.
It may be God's calling.
Yes.
Been out on the road a long time. Family's been begging me to get back home.
And I've experienced similar in my own life, not with health, but I was doing something that I thought, this is where I'm supposed to be, this is what I love to do, and then all of a sudden the door just gets slammed shut on me, and I'm like, but I really like doing that, and I want to keep doing it. And honestly, the last time the door got slammed in my face was in 2021. And I was doing a job that I loved. I was what was called a chief of protocol. It's kind of a glorified event manager for the 82nd Airborne Division in North Carolina. And it was a great job for me. I loved it.
Wow.
But it tried to kill me.
That's not good.
And so it was just time. It was time to stop doing that. And then I turned around and looked at my husband, and he said, well, you've been trying to write for the last 20 plus years that I've known you, so maybe now's the time. And I said, yes, it is time.
Okay, so you started your book back in the
well, I've been writing my whole life since I was a heartbroken 16-year-old, and then I finally was given the time to do it, because my job, the door was closed on my job, and so now that's what I do full time, is I get to write, and I'm blessed by that.
That is a blessing.
So
I kind of feel similar in that whole mentality there, because again, 21 years, I love to craft and do art. I'm an artist by trade, in my own mind, my own realm. But my grandfather was an artist. Yeah. A commercial artist at that as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, he was an actor and all kinds of stuff. So I come from a history of artistry, actually.
That's very cool.
And he actually was in the movies.
Oh, neat.
He was out in San Antonio. He did a film with Johnny Cash.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so that was pretty
cool.
neat.
Very cool.
So it runs in the blood, I think.
Yeah,
but
creativity.
Oh yes, definitely. Got way more creativity than I do have time.
Excellent.
And I feel like that same thing, that maybe it's time.
Now God's giving you the time.
Maybe so. So I'm not been too terribly upset. I'm upset, but not too terribly upset, because I know that He'll guide me, and if I just let Him show me His path, then it'll be better than mine. So
yeah, because when that door first closes, you wonder, what am I supposed to do now? Oh my gosh, what am I going to do now? Yeah. Well, like you just said, God will show you what you're going to do now.
And it's funny that you're a writer. I mean, it's not funny, but what's funny to me was when you approached me, I've actually also have wanted to write my whole life.
Yeah.
And I started working on a children's book.
Oh, cool.
So I do have the idea and some
Uh-huh.
of the illustrations.
That's excellent. That's outstanding. Well, we'll talk offline about a
yes.
children's author I can connect you with. You know,
Okay.
she's a really cool lady.
That would be great.
Yeah. So Stephanie was a truck driver for 21 years, and that's what she's going to help me with, because I have never been a truck driver, and she's going to help me with character development for a story that I'm writing currently. So if you're ready,
I'm ready.
all right. These are pretty specific questions, because this book is going to open with a lady truck driver who is the book opens where she is coming into a way station. Okay, and that's why those questions might seem a little odd that I gave you.
No.
Yeah. So I wanted to start with, what is the sign indicating a required stop at an upcoming way station called? I see them on the interstate all the time.
And they're different from state to state. A lot of them are the same, but
it's going to be here in Texas is where she's going to be.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Well, with Texas, it's just a way scale. I mean, DOT chicken coop. You know,
You call it a chicken coop?
chicken coop. You know,
Okay.
Yeah, the chicken coop. Just the DOT way scale, way station. I mean, that's just some of the old verbiage that my daddy was a truck driver too. So.
Oh, that is awesome, because my character's dad was also
Oh,
a
is
truck
that
driver,
right?
and that's why she started doing it. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. Okay, so it's just the sign. I can refer to it anyway.
Yeah, and in Texas, they don't always stay open. And Texas has the right.
I've noticed that.
Yeah, Texas has the right to pull you over at any given time,
Right.
as a trucker.
Okay.
Now, if their lights are flashing, that's when you definitely go in
Okay.
with Texas.
Yeah.
Because we don't have the whole transponder like most states. We have what's
Oh,
called
where you read it.
a pass inside, and it beeps green or red.
Okay.
And some of them in some of the southern are starting to do that, but right now it's just the flashing lights. So
Okay.
that's when you know it's open.
Okay. Flashing lights. And the way station, right? Flashing lights.
DOT scale, however you want to put it
The DOT scale is open.
there. Or if she's got any kind of sense of humor, chicken coops go.
Chicken coop. Okay, that's awesome. I like it. Do you know why they call it that?
Because it's usually just a small.
Oh, it's
little
kind of like
hut,
herding
like a
cats.
coop house, yeah.
Okay.
And all the chickens are in it, you know.
Okay. Okay.
Just an old saying, really.
That's awesome. Okay. And then to carry on with, this is character development for this book. Does a truck driver verify their load? An example: check the cargo, sign the paperwork. Again, I'm shooting in the dark. I don't know what I'm talking about.
It definitely depends on the customer.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of customers nowadays, since the whole COVID thing, they didn't want you coming in anymore. Now, in the old days, you definitely went in. They required you on the dock, and you would do what's called a shipper load count or a driver load count, or just a load or verifying the load count.
Okay.
So you would be on the dock watching them bring in all of the cargo, and in the older days we would also have to tell them how to put the cargo into the trailer, like they call it like a 2 and a 1 and a 2 like a 5, or then the center is turned like a pinwheel, so they call that a pinwheel. Depends on how the cargo's loaded.
Okay.
But nowadays it's really all already done for the most part. Now there's probably still some places that don't.
So do you just pick up a container that's already sitting there and you
Sometimes.
just hook up to it?
That's called a drop and hook.
Drop and hook.
Mm-hmm. If it's already preloaded and waiting for you to pick up, you drop an empty and you pick up a loaded. Drop and hook.
Okay. Okay. And then to carry on with that, did you ever lock your trailer yourself?
Yes, all the time.
Like every time?
All the time.
Yes.
Yeah, they usually give you a seal, and sometimes there's plastic seals, metal seals, and they're like a little clip, just a little, almost like a zip tie, but not some of them are zip ties.
Yeah.
And some of them are metal, and some of them are bolts.
And can it be your preference if you want to put your own padlock on there?
Well, once that's done, then we're required, well, at least the company I was working for, we have what's called a trailer lock. So it's actually a little box that comes apart, and it's got a little pin in it. And you put that pin into the trailer holes that you lock it. It's hard to explain.
No,
but it's a seal. It's a seal lock.
Okay.
So you actually lock the seal in it. So.
Okay. That's good.
A lockbox, sealed lockbox, I guess.
Yeah, because in this book, I have a part where she has verified her load in my mind, what I was thinking might happen.
BOL.
And
bill of lading.
Yeah, and she is about to lock the trailer and gets called to the office for more paperwork checking. And so she's like, literally like, and they're like, yeah, we got you, you know, and go to the office. So I want to make sure I'm not taking too much fictional license, creative license, so, to make it so unrealistic that a truck driver would be like, oh my gosh, I'm not reading this.
Well, you know, every business is different.
Yeah.
So you may have some cases just like that.
Okay.
Or you may, in my case, most times you don't get the paperwork until it's done.
Okay.
And then they usually give you the seal at the time, or if they seal it, then you have to hold on to the seal, and the guards will seal it at the gate.
Okay.
So.
Okay, so it's feasible.
It's feasible.
Okay.
Yeah, because if there's a misprint or the wrong seal number, always verifying seals is a good thing.
Absolutely.
Your paperwork against the seal number, which I've had many a times where they messed it up.
Okay. Okay, that's good to know. And then,
and also,
go ahead.
There's times where the trailer numbers might be so similar that you impose it and you grab the wrong one.
I was gonna say, you take the wrong trailer.
I've done it. I've hauled the trailer from Georgia to Texas.
Oh Lord.
Yeah.
No, this was supposed to go to California. Oops. And then what did you call your trailer? A trailer?
Just trailer.
Okay.
It's a box trailer. Like if they're trying to figure out your flatbed, or box or reefer.
I didn't know if drivers had a pet name or something that they called it.
Yeah, just a box trailer. Box trailer, flatbed, or reefer, which is a refrigerator load.
Oh, reefer is a refrigerator load. It's good to know.
Usually the grocery stores type stuff. Cold goods.
Okay. And then, kind of along the same lines, what do you call your load? Like,
just a load.
Just a load. Okay.
Yeah, just a load.
I know it seems like I'm being silly, but I just don't know anything about this industry, so.
No, just a load.
And then, are drivers privy to what they're hauling? Do you know what's behind you?
Yes.
You have to know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because a lot of times when you're going through the DOT scales, particularly at the borders, they ask you what you're hauling, so it's good to know. Yeah. And if you don't, they might want to see your paperwork.
Exactly.
So.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Need to know. All right. That's good. And then, this is kind of a broad question, but what is the process at a weigh station? I've seen when I'm driving down the interstate, I've seen the trucks lined up waiting to get into the weigh station or the DOT scales. And have you ever had to wait a long time? What's the longest you've had to wait?
Usually, if you're in a long line, it's usually because they're checking everybody, and it depends on the situation whether they are double checking you on the scale or putting you on the scale or bypassing you, because sometimes they'll bypass you. But if it's taking a long time, it's usually because everybody is stopping, and most times they do want you to release your brakes. Not all the time, but they want you to release your brakes because it's like dead weight. It gives you the full true weight of your load. And then they're checking your axles. is what they're doing. They're checking the weight by the axles.
Okay.
Because that's how we'll weigh it. It's the steers is the front of the truck.
So when it's your turn, you go right onto the scale.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's usually a full weight scale. Sometimes they're axle by axle. But if they determine that you're overweight or you're too close, they'll pull you over.
Okay.
And tell you to come in and bring the paperwork in, which includes your permits, your insurance, and your DOT medical license, all that stuff. So it's just they want to verify your load, who you are, and what you're doing.
All right. Straight to the scale, and then if there's too much deviation, is that a good term?
Yes.
Then you have to go in with your paperwork.
And it's important to
Go inside the chicken coop.
It's always important to weigh the load. You know,
Absolutely.
After you leave the customer, because
So you don't get weighed at the customer? You have to go
not
to a
always.
scale? Okay, but the customer tells you, I think it weighs this much.
Well, they base it off what their cargo weighs, so they'll put it what's on the pallet. You know, they do it by pallet. You know, because they already know. You know, a case of this weighs this much, so they put that many cases on a pallet. You know what I mean? And they'll do a base.
So let's say your trailer's full.
Some of them have actual scales in their facilities, so that they know exactly what they're putting on. But
So your trailer's full, and your customer says it weighs X amount, and you get to the DOT weigh scale.
no, you want to go to the truck stop first.
Well, you're traveling down the road, and you've been indicated to pull over at a DOT weigh scale now, even though you've already weighed.
Okay, you're saying after.
Now we're down the road some more. In fact, this girl, she's going to start in Brownsville, Texas.
Oh, that's funny. I know somebody in Brownsville.
Yeah, and she's going to get pulled over at a DOT station, like probably up here, you know. So she's been at it for a minute when she finally gets pulled over at the DOT weigh scale. And there's, in her case, there's going to be some deviation.
Okay.
And that's when the drama starts.
Not the DOT drama. Been there, done that.
So then she's standing there in the office in the chicken coop, and she has her paperwork, and they're like, the scales say you weigh this, and your paperwork says you should weigh this. What happens then?
Okay. So if they're nice, they'll let you readjust
It's
your
too
trailer.
hot today to be nice.
Too hot today to be
In
nice.
this instance, it's too hot. They're not feeling nice.
Okay, well then they're probably going to do an inspection.
Okay, so she's going to have to open the trailer.
Well, if they require it, yeah. So if that's what's in your book.
It could happen. It could happen. Okay, good.
So that becomes a real issue if they have to break the seal.
Okay.
Because now you're dealing with the customer's goods.
And the customer's going to be unhappy. Okay.
It'll be probably a dead load at that point. So,
what does that mean?
It just means that it'll have to be re-verified. They'll probably have to have people come
from the company.
Yeah,
okay.
and your company, and they'll have to redo it right then and there. Probably, if it depends if they can't move it. Like if you're on a DOT,
she's going to get stuck at that.
She's going to get a DOT shutdown.
Yeah.
Okay. Then yes. Yeah, they'll have to, if she's overweight in any fashion, even though she weighed it, which actually has happened to me, then it goes, you get a ticket. I mean, that's if you can't do anything about it, and it's like, let's say 80,000 pounds with your truck and your load. Completely,
that's a full load.
That's a full load. You can't go past 80,000 without a special permit.
Right.
So if you've got room within that 80,000 to get your axles right, you're okay. You can probably get down the road. But that requires moving fifth wheels and all kinds of good stuff.
Yeah.
But if it's simple,
so what if, like, her customer said that she should weigh in at about, let's say 65?
That's already too much.
That's too much?
When they load, let's just put it this way.
Oh, because all her equipment weighs a lot
Right.
too.
You've got your truck and your trailer, which roughly runs on a box in a, let's just say a Freightliner. I don't know what she's driving.
Yeah.
But let's just say a Freightliner. You're probably between 32 to 34,000 empty with your personal, with your fuel and everything.
Okay, so they're not going to offer her more than what, 20,000 pounds or something like that.
It gets up to, you can go up to like 79, 80,000 total.
Okay.
So usually about 40 to 45,000 at max. 45,000 would be like pushing the max.
Truck and equipment. You said empty weighs
about 30 to 34, somewhere around there. I usually have, at my max weight was 40,000, 45,000. 45 was like max weight for them to load. What their product would be about.
You didn't want to get to 80,000.
No, you don't want to get to 80,000. Although I've been right there at the cusp. But
and that's not fun, is it?
no,
because that's stressful.
It's not only stressful, but you can feel it. You know, especially what people don't understand. What we call y'all four-wheelers. We call y'all four-wheelers. And what people don't understand is they cut us off. They brake real hard in front of us, and you don't know what we have back there. If we've got liquid, we're bouncing back and forth because the liquid's going back.
I watch people just cut in front of trucks all the time, and I'm like,
it's tragic. You know, you really have no idea what you're doing to that driver.
Well, I can imagine that just the trucks alone, just the equipment are deadly. They're deadly.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine how stressed y'all are driving them. Because there are a bunch of idiots out there on the road.
It's gotten even better over the years.
Oh, I can only imagine. With phones.
Yes. The distractions.
Oh, goodness.
Galore.
Yes. Oh, my gosh. Okay, so you answered several questions in one right there. So, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Okay, so moving on to how does the mandatory rest periods work? How long can you drive before you must rest, and how long do you have to rest?
Okay. They changed this over the years many times, but currently you have a 70-hour work week within an 8-day period.
70 hours in 8 days.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, work requires you.
No worries.
Work. They're excited for mama's home. Work. I say work. The DOT requires you to do mandatory breaks. Okay, in between your day.
Yes.
So your day, you get a 14-hour work day.
14-hour day. Okay.
Okay. But you can only drive 11 of those 14.
Only drive 11 hours. Okay.
And you can only drive 8 hours before you have to have a 30-minute break.
8 hours and then 30-minute break.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if I get in my truck and I just want to drive and hit the road and not stop,
you can't do it
I can do it up to 8 hours.
for 8 hours.
And then I have to stop for a 30-minute break.
Okay.
Then I can continue on to the 11 hours.
Okay.
Now, where the 14 comes in, you're working when you're at a customer. So when you're out of that truck and you're checking in and you're going into the
You
docks,
want them to move quickly.
you're on duty. So those are part of that 14 hours that you have in your day.
So if it takes them 2 hours to load you, you're sitting there.
Yes, yeah. You want them to load quick, and believe me, they will mess up a clock easily.
Okay.
All the time.
Okay. And then does the driver have to stop as soon as the clock reaches a certain point?
Yes. So like I said, you have a 14-hour day. You can drive 11 of it in. Your the 14 clock is your fueling, your weighing, your loading, unloading, any of those types of things.
Oh, so when you see those long lines at the pumps at like the Pilot and stuff like that, y'all are sitting there going, oh my gosh.
Yeah, you want people to get in and get out of your way.
Yes, yes.
There's been many of fights in the drive, where they're yelling at each other. Get out, what?
My husband and I pull a big fifth wheel. We actually live in it, and we have to go to the trucker line to get diesel for our truck. And I know that the truckers are looking at us like, really? Well, we have sat there behind truck drivers, and they go inside, and they're in there like 30 minutes, and we're like, we're stuck because there's a truck behind us and a truck in front of us.
I'll tell you why they're doing that. They're taking a 30-minute break.
Yeah.
They're killing two birds with one stone.
Go park.
Well, I'm guilty of that. I am. I'm put it out there. I'm guilty of that because it really, sometimes you just gotta go potty.
Yeah, I understand that.
And you gotta get in there, and you're like, well, I might as well just get everything I need, and then you come back and you're fueling, and it can frustrate you, frustrate the other people. I've had many people frustrate me, but we all do it, and everybody's guilty. I'm telling you.
I get it. I totally understand that. But I just have noticed that some truck drivers are like, maybe you should park your truck over there if you're gonna relax and take your time.
Yeah. And it's important too not to take your 30-minute break too soon into your trip. Because if you do, you're gonna have to take another 30.
That's right. Yeah, that's a good point. And then is there a certain term for the drive time clock?
This is just the DOT clock.
DOT clock. Yeah. Okay. That sounds good. DOT, of course, Department of Transportation.
Hours of
already
service.
Translated that. Yeah. Hours of service. Okay. And then what is that paperwork called? And then it's generally electronic now, isn't it?
Yes, it's the e-log, electronic logs.
And then before that,
and when paper log.
Paper log. So it's just your log, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you already told me how much does a heavy load typically weigh, and that's when you're loaded to the gills.
Yes.
Okay, and then we discussed load getting weighed at the beginning. That's pretty much the driver's responsibility if the company doesn't have a scale right there, correct?
I'm sorry, my mom.
That's fine.
What did you ask me?
Getting weighed at the beginning of your trip.
Yes, that's important to do that. And sometimes you can't. Sometimes you're in an area, and it's happened to me.
I am glad you're pointing that out because I'm sitting here trying to think, well, how am I going to work around that she doesn't know she's way over what they said?
Yeah, sometimes that does happen, and it's really on you because even if you're in an area and your next two exits, it has a DOT scale, and you're headed that way, you might want to do your homework and drive 20 to 30 miles backwards, which I tried desperately not to do.
Nobody wants to go backwards. Yeah.
And I just went forward with it.
Because you have to.
I'm not driving 30 miles back. I'm sorry.
Exactly. I got you.
And you kind of take a wing and a prayer and hope that we're good. Although, trying to think, of 21 years, I'm sure I've had tickets. I've had I've actually bypassed the scale. That's another one you could use.
Yeah.
It was an accident.
Yeah,
you zone sometimes.
I see that too. I'm out there on the interstate and I see this long line of trucks waiting to go into the scale, and then I see others just fly by, and I'm like, how come they don't have to stop? Just because the line's too long? Or?
Well, no. There's laws actually for the DOT. So when the scales are super long and they're going out and out to the interstate, you legally can bypass that scale.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, because you're impeding traffic and causing
that's dangerous.
Yeah. And it's up to them to pay attention to that too. I don't know if they have sensors. Some of them do. Some
because then they switch the sign off, right?
Right, and I've seen that, and I'm like, darn, I just missed it. And I have to go through. But yeah, so that is one of the things. If there's a line that's growing, and you can't get into that line, you bypass it.
Okay.
And it's legal.
Well, that's what's going to happen to her. She's just going to miss being able to bypass.
Been there. I had a. I think it was out in Mississippi. I missed a scale. Just kind of, it's so small, and if you blink an eye or look the wrong way, you're going to miss the sign. And I did, and I just kept going, and I was like, oh man, I didn't know, and I just missed that exit. This guy come out like Barney Fife, stretched his arms, did his belt, and pulled me over.
And you're like,
Not one lawyer would take that and work with me. The judge hated drivers.
yeah.
So $1,200 ticket for bypassing that step.
Owie.
That was back in about 15 years ago.
Ooh.
So that was
Owie.
really tall order back then.
Yeah, that's painful.
Yeah.
Ooh. So, she's at the weigh station, and there is deviation. So, how much would they, say, it's just a little bit, or how much would be like, get your paperwork, go meet your coop, we gotta talk. How much deviation? Like, let's say her paperwork says she weighs 50,000. And she comes in, how much would she have to go over to cause alarm bells?
Oh, it wouldn't take much. If you're over the max 80, then you're definitely it's just total shutdown.
Right.
They have to actually have somebody come out and offload that.
So if she's under the allowable weight but doesn't match her paperwork, they're okay with that?
If she's got the proper paperwork showing that and her weight
Doesn't match her paperwork?
Yeah, she's it's still on.
They're going to inspect?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not very much at all?
No, not when it's max.
I was thinking it would be like maybe 6,000 pounds. That'd be something that would
if
be
it's 80,000 and you're
no, she's not going to go over the allowable weight.
Are you talking about on the axles?
Yeah, her scale
Axles,
weight is not going to match her paperwork.
Axles have a little bit of give. For instance, Oklahoma, if you're over an axle, they'll give you 1,000 pounds.
Okay.
But if you're, let's say Georgia or somewhere else, they're
Okay.
Alabama, they're pretty snippety about it. Or anywhere where there's bridges out east, like that. There's something called a bridge law, and we have to be in our trailer, the nose of the trailer to the back end, based off the tandems and how they're slid. We can't be 40 foot past the fifth wheel. It's like a nail head that how the fifth wheel works.
Yeah,
It goes in. It's like where that I can't think of the proper name all of a sudden. It just
Yeah.
But anyways, you can't be nose to trailer. The wheels have to be set in a certain spot.
Right.
So if you ever see trucks where the trailer's all the way to the back where the end of the box is, that's against the bridge law stuff.
Ooh.
But they have lifted a lot of that in certain states. So it just depends on where you're at. But here in Texas, you're pretty
East
good.
is always more difficult.
Texas is a lot more forgiving.
Yeah. Well, my question is, if her paperwork says her load weighs this much, and she's over that, then
You take it back to the customer.
they're gonna say you're done.
When you go,
your day is done.
Yeah. If you didn't scale that load,
But
you're in trouble
they-
like her.
Are they gonna inspect it at the DOT weigh scale?
It depends. Depends if they want to.
Again, this is a
It's
hot
just-
day and they're in a bad mood.
Probably.
Okay.
Probably. They'll do there's like different levels of inspections too. Level 1, 2, and 3. Level 1 is the detailed one. So level 3 is like just paperwork and checking little things like that.
Okay.
But if they want to be real jerks, the level 1 inspection, they're going to pull you in. They're going to get up under your trailer. They're looking for leaks. They're looking for your brake adjustments on your trailers to be off, which I've had that before.
Okay.
They're looking for any and everything, and then they're going to give you tickets, citations, anything against that should be fixed.
Okay.
But if it's just a weight problem, it's kind of a give or take depending on the axles. If she's not over 80,000, she's probably good to be able to move a little bit. But if she can't get into that, each axle has to be no more than 34,000, except for the steers.
It needs to be a significant deviation to cause an alarm bell.
Yeah. So
Okay.
like the front trailer, like the front truck, the first two wheels that we're driving, the steer tires, those are the steers. box trucks generally 12.5, and if you have a reefer on you, they give you another about a 5 to 7 extra for things like that. A sleeper that has a the name escapes me. I'm so sorry.
No, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, they have generators basically on the back of the trucks now,
Mm-hmm.
and it's for EPA stuff.
Yeah.
If we have that, then we get an allowance to be over the 12.5.
Okay.
12.5 is max, but if you have those things, they'll go with like 5 to 7.
Okay.
Somewhere 500 pounds extra. They give, but when it comes to your tractor wheels, the back and the trailer wheels, 34,000 and maybe 200 to 300 pounds extra.
Okay.
If you're over 5, you're really pushing it.
Okay.
You're really pushing it. And
so if her paperwork says she's weighing in total loaded at
45,
and she weighs in at 52, they're gonna be like, get out.
Yeah,
we're looking at this.
Yeah, we're gonna break the seal. We're gonna look at the cargo. We're gonna inspect you. We're gonna do everything to you. And by the way, you're shut down, and your company's gonna have to come out and readjust this
Good
load.
deal.
You're just shut down.
That's good. That's exactly what I'm looking for.
Okay. Sorry, a little long-winded on my part.
You're fine. So not much deviation at all. That's totally fine. I appreciate the thoroughness. Thank you.
Yeah, since, like you said, they're having a bad day.
Yeah. Well, it's hot. It's Texas.
Yeah.
That makes my day bad. And then the term, so you work for a company and you get sent all over, right? To go get loads everywhere, right? Is that called dispatched?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, dispatching a load, pre-planning. They'll pre-plan. Excuse me. If you're on a load, they'll send you what's called a pre-plan on the electronic log, and so you stop and you look at that, and then you're supposed to. In the old days, and you might want to put this in there instead of the electronic logs, but in the old days, we didn't have GPS.
They had this whole itinerary printed out for you.
No, no, you did it yourself. You grabbed that map. And then
fun.
Yes.
I love atlases.
Yeah, and there's a lot to an atlas. I mean, I learned so much about an atlas. I'm like, really? There's so many things that I never knew, like north and south. The numbers go up and down.
Yeah.
The mileposts, and the east and west, the numbers go up and down. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah.
So you've got that, and then they've got these little triangles in the maps, and that's the mileage between each, thing. So I don't know how much you knew. I didn't know anything.
Well, I was homeschooled my whole life, and my parents used to tote us all over the country, and they would get the atlas out, and that was part of our schooling, was learning that stuff. So
well, good for you. Yeah, I wasn't a traveler. I mean, we just were at home, so getting into that, I didn't know a thing about it.
Yeah.
So I felt real smart after I learned that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And then where are loads usually picked up? Particular places or random, all over, all types? With the company that you're with, and I'm not asking for company names because we haven't been given permission to use that, of course.
Right.
But did you pick up a certain type of thing every time you went out, or did you pick up just random wherever?
It was random.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was random. And now there was divisions. You have divisions, and I've been on tobacco division where it's high risk tobacco. I've been on dedicated divisions where you pick up a certain customer to that same customer's warehouses. So you have the divisions like that, local and just dedicated.
But it can also happen where you just ping around to
but
everything.
What I did was random. Wherever.
Awesome.
Yeah. I also ran lead, which was a company that's what they did, but it was also random.
Yeah.
You can pick up anything from high dollar stuff to a bale of garbage.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. And then
Take them to the paper mills, things like that.
Yeah. And then down to the more of the, I guess, the atmosphere and environment. what are some of the challenges you faced as a female truck driver? And in asking that, I'm not asking for the bashing. I was a female soldier, and so I had challenges. Most of my career, I was the only one of my kind. Being the only woman in my units a lot of the times.
That had to be rough.
And there was challenges with that, but there was also great blessing. I was a little bit older when I joined the military, so I kind of became everybody's mama, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And just so I'm not asking in that bashing way that a lot of people might expect.
Okay.
And I'm not asking you to mince your words. I am asking, I know there had to have been challenges in being a female truck driver, because I don't see a lot of females getting in and out of trucks when we're pulling our fifth wheel into these pilots and loves and stuff.
Now they're a dime a dozen, aren't they?
Well, I still don't see
Really?
very many. I don't. And when I do, I've been writing this story for a while, so I almost always want to run up to this lady and say, "Can I interview you?"
Oh,
And
bless your
I'm
heart.
always thinking she might punch me.
You might have some out there, but overall, most drivers really are pretty jovial. They love to talk.
Yeah.
I love to talk.
Mhm.
But being home's kind of set me in a different path right
Yeah.
now, so I've got a lot in my head. But as far as challenges as a woman truck driver, I can say I had to fight a lot of males coming on to you,
Okay.
and just having a smile
Mhm.
was an invitation to them.
Right. Okay. I can
So,
understand that.
Yeah. Outside of that, it was just mostly the bashing.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as me personally, being a female, driving long hours, having a womanly monthly kind of thing can
yeah.
really be a
Yeah.
challenge out there.
Yeah.
Especially if you've got problems, and then
Mhm.
it's even harder. So
Yeah.
there's been some challenges there on that end, but overall, I just always let God take it.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that people are like, "Aren't you scared?"
Yeah.
No, He's got me. I'm never scared.
Mm-hmm.
There's been times where it felt a little spooky,
Yeah.
or if, dispatch would say, watch yourself in this area. In fact, there was a time I went through Detroit and they told me just pass the red lights. Don't stop.
That is a little scary.
So I'm like, I'm gone. All right, no problem.
Yeah, that's
just
fine.
take a look.
It's
I'm gone.
good. It's
Y'all
good.
gave me. Now, I was too young and what do they call those? A stepper.
Mhm.
You felt like you were, man in the road,
Sure.
You're tough, you got this,
Mhm.
nobody
I totally
tells
understand
you
that.
I did a lot of that. So I was, in my younger years, I was probably a little more irresponsible
Mm-hmm.
than when I got older,
Yeah.
because then I started seeing everything. But,
Yeah.
it was like this mentality,
You kind of just shut it all
10
out.
foot tall and bulletproof.
Yeah.
And life changes you, and,
Mhm.
and experiences change you, and thank the Lord, because you've got to grow. And I learned that wasn't so smart.
Mhm.
So the challenge for me was to lose the ego.
Right.
I had a little bit of an ego. My dad was a truck driver, so
Sure.
I got this.
Yeah.
Being in truck stops.
Mhm.
At night, that was a challenge.
Yeah.
That was a bit of a challenge.
That would make me a little nervous.
Again, it was only a challenge because I had people in my ear telling me watch
To
out,
be
watch
nervous.
out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'd be like, I ain't nervous. God's got this, and I'd be
Yeah.
just fine.
Yeah.
He's kept me this whole time, and I'm so grateful. Because not too long ago I've heard of kidnappings
Right.
recently.
Right.
So I'm just like, especially with a lot of the immigration stuff
Mhm.
that's happened.
Mhm.
And that woman fought her way tooth and nail, and other truckers got out and helped her.
That's awesome.
And when they interviewed the guy, he had dirty, devious, deathly plans for her.
Of course.
And
Yeah.
that's a scary thought.
Yeah.
You know, and that made you go, But, you know, again, I'm not saying that it wouldn't happen to me, but it wouldn't happen to me.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because the faith I had out there, it wouldn't happen to me.
Yeah.
And they'd probably throw me back, you know.
Yeah.
Throw me back. They don't want me.
I think that is a lot too with, you know, unfortunately, truckers have a bad reputation. They really do. And that's kind of what was in my mind, was thinking that, you know, just the men coming on to you would be part of it. And I thought that there might be some chauvinism that you would have to face.
Definitely chauvinism, but
Yeah.
also some discrimination
Mhm.
when it comes to, let me put it this way. I didn't always dress like this.
Mm-hmm.
Because I came from real estate, I came from real estate auditing, I came from a background in customer service. I was always in an office. I worked in art galleries. You know, I had, you know, the North Dallas, you know, mentality, and I was kind of forced into going to trucking, which I really never wanted to do per se, because my dad was gone all the time.
Right.
But once I was in it, now it's hard to get out. But once I just didn't want to lose my womanhood,
Right.
and I didn't want to be looked at as just a dirty, you know,
Yeah.
smelly trucker. You
Yeah,
know,
I hear
I was gonna be a woman still.
Right.
So I would dress nice, you know, probably too nice.
Dress like you were going to work.
I did.
Yeah.
I did, and people told me, "You're crazy." I said, "Listen, I'm a woman. I'm gonna be a woman."
Yeah.
You know, I'd wear my jewelry, my shorts. You know, I'd even sometimes wear, you know, fancy shoes. You know,
Yeah.
not high heels, but you know, just
nice shoes.
Nice
Yeah.
shoes. I was actually called out by security in New Mexico as
They thought you were a woman of the night. Huh?
They did. Lot lizard is what they call those.
Oh no!
They call those lot lizards. I'm like, yeah, no. So we kind of, that really infuriated me.
Yeah.
Oh, it was bad. I had the truck stop calling my work, apologizing.
I bet.
The guy, I had him fired because it was plain straight
Just discrimination. Yeah.
and an accusation that was I was making a beeline from the truck stop to my truck, not deviating anywhere.
You weren't looking left or right,
No.
trying to get attention.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Jeez.
I even had some to-go food with me, like a cup and a styrofoam. Come on, dude.
Yeah.
You know? Really?
Right.
So
Bought it myself.
So yeah, so it was like that. I would say that was the kind of challenges I was dealing with, those kinds of things. And my current significant other is the one that toned me down, and being comfortable still being in my skin as a woman.
Yeah.
So he was a real help on that one.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
That's awesome.
this is about what you get when I go to work.
That's great.
This is right here.
That's great. That's great. And then I was gonna ask.
And I usually have my pink glasses, so I didn't have my sunglasses. They're usually up here or right here.
The final question was, what were some of the things you loved about trucking, if any?
God's beautiful paintings.
That's a good answer. I love it.
There's nothing more beautiful than seeing a stretch of mountains and trees, and all of a sudden you're in deserts, and then all of a sudden you're by the ocean. You know, it's just valleys and greens and the different planeries, you know, the different colors.
That must be the best when you get away from the traffic that's around the cities and stuff, and just get out there and you're just seeing God.
Oh,
That
man.
must be the best.
Especially out west.
Yeah.
In the Rocky Mountains was the
I
most
spent
beautiful.
a lot of time out west, yeah.
The most beautiful mornings was those coming up from just the Rocky Mountain sunshine coming up over those mountains, and it was like somebody literally took a paintbrush and was painting those mountains.
God did. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you know, going through the gorges and different things like that, the high bridges that you might come across out in Tennessee, or, you know, just it's just, man, I can't explain it. I'm gonna miss that.
Yeah.
The freedom of the road and not having to sit in an
office
with
Yeah.
somebody breathing over your neck and telling you what you're going to do for the day. You were your
Right.
own boss, even though you had to answer to the uppers.
Mm-hmm.
They, you know, if they know you, they leave you alone.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't know you, they're like, okay, you're going to make this load, you're going to make that load, you're going to be on time, you're going to be... It's,
Calm down.
Yeah. But the adventures, things that you see in the sky that you can't explain. I've had some really interesting things happen
Yeah.
in the skies, or I even had a time warp.
We are likely not alone out here.
I've got thoughts on that one. We'll discuss later.
That's a whole other podcast.
That's a whole other podcast. But I've actually had a time warp.
Wow.
Yeah. Talk
That's-
about and
That sounds like another podcast too.
and I was in one spot and don't know how I got there.
Yeah.
And there was no way. Talk about deviation.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Right.
I've had some spooky things happen in the truck. You know, going down the road, my light just shut off. Like literally flipped, like physically flipped.
Mm.
And I was in the mountains and coming out of Portland, Oregon,
Okay.
into California.
My day is done. I'm done now.
I
I'm
was
just
like,
gonna
well,
pull
thank
over.
God that other truck was next to me, because those were the only headlights I had.
Yeah.
I was like, what happened? I thought I had an electrical issue.
Yeah.
Bumps in the roads. I've
Uh-huh.
actually had my truck shut off because of them not maintaining the roads. That might be something you could put in your book.
Well,
Something to that
we have
nature.
traveled from Georgia to Alaska several times.
Oh.
Hauling our well, no, we haven't hauled the fifth wheel that far yet, but just we've experienced bad roads and crazy weather and, you know, just all kinds of things.
Mhm.
So we are familiar with road life, just I'm not familiar with truck life.
Yeah. It can be something out there that's, you never know what you're in for every day.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's definitely something different every day.
Absolutely. Well, Stephanie, thank you so very much for spending time with me and taking a chance on a stranger. I feel like
Absolutely. Yeah,
we're
it
not
was
going to be
fun.
strangers now.
Yeah,
I
I'd
hope
love
we'll
for
be
it not to
friends
be.
going forward. And
I'd like that.
I really appreciate you meeting with me and sharing your knowledge and educating me on this.
I hope it was
because
something. If you come up with
Oh,
any more
absolutely.
questions, just send them to me.
I
I'll
will.
answer them to
I
you.
will
What
absolutely.
I can come up with.
Because, you know, I do write absolute pure fiction, and but I try to do the research. I recently
awesome.
finished one and published where I was writing about prisoners of war coming home from Vietnam, and I contacted everybody.
Oh,
I contacted the Pentagon and the Department of the Navy and
Wow.
everybody, and they all took me seriously. I couldn't believe it.
And then you were actually able to do interviews?
Well, they answered my questions. They did not interview on camera,
But they did
I
answer
don't blame them
questions.
for that. So yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And just really neat, and I love it. You know, and
That's
I'm not
awesome.
a journalist. I'm not, you know, a news anchor or anything, but I appreciate people coming on my podcast and educating me. Thank
That's
you.
fun.
Thank you
Well,
very
would you
much.
mind me sharing that out?
Absolutely. Please do.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
please do. And I will make sure that you're billed in the title and all that, you know,
Okay.
so that people
Appreciate
know you're a star now.
No. I'm just grateful for the opportunity, especially to me, when you contacted me, you know, and I told you how I felt about that at first, but you know, I watched your very first podcast, which was what gave me the, okay, we can do this. you know.
Yeah.
And we can discuss some things off camera if you
Sure.
like, but I do have some thoughts and some questions
Sure.
that that you brought up on your first podcast. So
Okay. Excellent.
yeah.
Well, all right. Again, thank you. And
welcome.
that's all we have for this podcast. Y'all, thank you so much for tuning in. Be blessed.
Be blessed and highly favored. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank
It was
you.
very nice to meet you.
You too.
Thanks. Bye.